Data Analysis and Business Intelligence with Tableau, Week 10. So, in this week, we are going to learn about advanced calculations in Tableau and the analytics inside Tableau. In the last week, we have learned about data prep. So, inside the data prep, we have learned about how to pivot data before loading and what are the use cases wherever the scenario you get the pivots, etc. And we saw how the data flows from cross-tab to a columnar format whenever you're doing a pivot. We saw how to do custom split and where are cases when will you use this custom split in your data and how you can do custom split into different columns, and you can use different delimiters while you're using this custom split. We have seen the extracting option. What options do we have inside the extracting? We discussed about how to hide and unhide fields, and we discussed about how to sample the data based on the number or based upon the percentage inside the rows. And we also learned about how Tableau stores the data in different tables whenever you're using physical and logical tables, how Tableau stores the data and how you can change that also based upon the aggregation to less down, like bring down the rows in your data set. And we also saw hide and unhide fields inside the Tableau whenever you're not using some fields, how to hide them to actually decrease the scroll bar on the left. We saw some of the interactivity on the dashboard, what is interactivity about, and how parameter actions and set actions play a major role inside the interactivity. We saw two or more cases where we can use these actions to just drill down the data or to just bring different measure values into your visualizations without using a sheet swap. So the table of contents for this week are we are going to discuss about the advanced calculations in Tableau. So we will be learning some of the specific calculations which can be used in most of the scenarios, and we will talk about the regular expressions with a shortcut which is called regex, but we will call them regular expressions. We will learn why they are useful and when they are useful. We will discuss about table calculations. So table calculations we already went through, but how are going this whenever we are using this advanced calculations, how table calculations will also come into use and how we have to deal with them when we are dealing with the advanced calculations. We will see some use cases wherever we have this scenario where we have to use both of them together. And for this week, we will also look at the analytics tab we have inside Tableau. We will see how we can use trend lines, how we can do clustering, and how we can do forecasting. We will go with some use cases wherever we are going to use them, how to create them, how to use them effectively and all. So the learning objective for this week is, in this week you're going to understand and actually practice on different scenarios where you will go with the advanced calculations which are associated, or we will see the advanced calculations together with the table calculations, how to use them to deal with different scenarios where you have to show a different value according to a dimension and you have some advanced calculation over there, how you're going to deal with that. And we will see the regular expressions and types of regular expressions inside Tableau. We do have types inside them. We will see how are they going to be useful in our case scenarios. So we'll also look at the use cases, a couple of use cases on the advanced calculations in the table calculations, because that will be more frequently used content whenever you're working with the real-time scenario. You have to use more advanced in table calculations all the time. So we will also see the analytics pane this time. We will look into how we are going to use the trend lines, clustering, forecasting, and how these scenarios will come into use in whatever the visualizations we are building, and how we can show them visually effective and which can be useful for the final business advisors. So the first topic in this week would be advanced calculations. We already know how to create calculations and all, but we will see how we can do advanced calculations. So I just picked up some calculations. We have like so many of them inside Tableau, but I just picked up the most frequently used, let's say, inside the advanced calculations, the most frequently used. So the first one I picked up is the first calculation, first as first. So this one returns the number of rows mentioned from the top. If you just click on some calculation inside the Tableau pop-up box for the created field, Tableau will actually show the description of that calculation and an example for that calculation, whatever it can be, like whatever calculation you're using, just click on it. You will see the description and also you will see the example of how to use that, and you can also see the syntax. So if you see here, we are describing the first and the last calculations. The first returns the number of rows from the top, the vice versa, the last calculation will do. It returns the number of rows from the bottom. So whatever number you give over there, it will bring up the exact row. So this is how the first and last calculations will work. And whenever we are going up with the table and whenever we want to present something which is particularly to some number, we can do this. So the next one in the table calculations is running calculations. We have one concept of running calculation inside Tableau. Inside that we have sum, average, minimum, maximum, count, etc. So the sum is a running sum, is like it will add up all the previous value and it kinds of aggregates the previous value and give the sum going on to your bottom or the other way. So all the running values will work like that. So the aggregation you have different options like sum, average, minimum, maximum, but all the running calculations will add up the previous value and add it to the current value. So if you see the description over here, sum actually the values added to the previous value, average the running total averages the current and the previous value. So average will work like that, right? So it will add up the previous value going on, it will increase the value count and it will take the average out of it. Minimum value, all values are replaced with the lowest value in the original partition. Maximum, all values are replaced with the highest values in the original partition. So these are the like basic description about what that calculation is. We will definitely look into each example of how they are going to work inside Tableau also. So we also have a concept of Windows calculations. So Windows functions provide the ability to perform calculations across all the rows that are related to the current query row. That means it actually performs all the window calculations, whatever you have on the view. Let's say you have a table of some category, some subcategory and the sales. So the rows you will be seeing there will be aggregated upon the dimension, right? So Windows calculations will build the calculation according to whatever you have inside the row. So if you look at that example of Windows sum, so Windows sum is a sum already summing up the sum of profit and they gave an offset okay minus 2 0. This will bring the sum of profit from the two previous rows to the current row. So it will count, basically it will count the rows on your view and it will bring the minus 2 means the up one, like going back. So it will bring the two previous rows to the current row. So we will also look at how this functions in the real-time scenarios. That's when you actually understand how they're counting all the rows and how they're performing on the tables. And we already looked at table calculations previously, but we will be going into depth inside table calculations because most of the scenarios you will be associated with both the kind of advanced calculations and also the table calculations. You might have to mix them up to show one particular value out of that. So in here, if you're seeing here, we have a column called compute using inside the table calculations. So we already looked at quick table calculations, right? So in the quick table calculations, we have the data of what you can do with the table calculation. You have a percentage difference or a running difference or a percent of total, etc. You have the YTD growth. These things you have inside the quick table calculation. But how is it computing? Is it computing based upon the whole table, or is it computing based upon one cell, or is it computing based upon one dimension, whatever you're using there? This will all come under compute using. So this plays a major role. I repeat, like really a major role whenever you're working with tables. You will have to cross check the compute using. This one will throw a different value whenever it goes into a different pointer like path, it will definitely throw a different value. You have to really be careful with the compute using. So this one is all about compute using inside the table calculation. We will look into different scenarios for sure of how to use this and how to actually be careful whenever you're using the compute calculation. So we are almost what we had discussed when we discussed about what we are going to do and what options we have inside each thing, and we will go look into our all my full data. I'm going to sheet 1. So to make you understand better, we will just go with the simple scenarios where you can actually understand the concept behind it. How are these calculations computing at, at the back end? Let's check that. I'm just taking the category column and I will also add subcategory because I want to have more rows. All this advanced or table calculations totally depending upon the row count, etc., most of them, and I wanted to show you how this work, and we're just taking this category and subcategory in this scenario so that we will just get some rows to look at how they're working. Okay, and what I will do is I will create some calculations. So we already spoke about first, last, etc., right? We will see how they work and then we have the data inside how they work. So this, I'm creating a calculated field for the first. So what I will do, I will write first. I'm just not writing any number inside or not just giving any number because I wanted to show you how this first calculation acts on your table. So I'll just say first, okay, and this is our first calculation. And I will create a one more calculation for last. So the formula I'm using here is the last. So I'm just not giving anything here also, and I'll just say only last and click on OK. I will just create one more calculation for index. So we already discussed about how index works. Index is like a serial number. It will create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And this index number sometimes will help you to understand how the other calculations are working. That's why I'm just creating index also. And I will also take one more simple calculation. Let's say size. I will tell you how size works also. Just take size also in here. Click on OK. So first we want to see all these 4 calculations. So for that, I will just drag all these calculations. I'm selecting first. I'm just clicking on control and selecting first, last, index and size. So I will drag all this into my view. This just gave me some weird shapes. Let's just drag them into the members text. This is the view we are getting by using all these 4 calculations we created. So we created first, last, index and size. Let's discuss about index first because index is like a serial number. It will create a row number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and it is creating up to 17. That means you have 17 rows inside your view. So if you look at the size is bringing up that 17 to all the rows. That means, okay, you have this much content of data. This is like you have 17 rows, but it will throw up the same value to all the rows or whatever you have on the view. And by this, you can actually understand this first and last calculations better. So if you see here, first started from 0 and it went up to 16 and last started from 0 from the bottom and it went up to 16 to the top. So first is giving you a negative sign but last is not giving you a negative sign. You see here, this is how first and last calculations work. This will count the row. First will go into the addition of the number and the last will actually work like this. If you want to pick up some rows, let's create one more calculation and I want to pick up only one row and let's see how I can do that. So I just want to look at last 5th row. I'll say last. Right now I am giving a number 5. If you see here, if you drag up to this onto the view, it will actually give you true wherever it see that 5. Okay. it is actually throwing up true in this scenario. This is the fifth row it is taking up in the last column. This is how you use first or last columns based upon the row number. If you have an index or index, it will be like easily understandable for you how these table calculations are working. Let's say why I am calling this table calculations. If you see here, they're already inside the table calculations. We didn't create any table calculation, right? But this one are coming up based upon the row count. That means it is looking at each row, which is a table calculation, because inside the table, what I am doing. So even if you look inside your calculation fields, see, this is actually showing that this is a table calculation and it is using a default table calculation. This is the option you will get whenever you click on that default table calculation. So the results are computed across table. So this is the default calculation it is using for inside the table calculation. Even though if you create the table calculated field here, this will use the table calculations because these are all dependent upon the row count. It will act according to the table you're building. So it will act according to the row number it is using. So these are all completely dependent upon whatever the rows it has inside the table. Even though if you add something more into your visualization, what it will do, so it will act according to whatever is built in the start, right? You added one more field into view, but before adding this view only, you have your table calculation already pointed out to something. If you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this one is giving up a true value. It should be last 5, but it is actually giving a true value here. And if you see here, we have like 51 rows. But still I'm seeing a 70 number. Why? Because my table calculation is computing used upon a default table calculation. So if I say, okay, if I just want to create calculation on table down, that means from the 1 to whatever rows you have until down, it will go and calculate whatever rows it has inside the entire table. It is like repointing the table calculation to whatever you dragged new into your view. We just, in this case scenario, we dragged a segment into our new visualization. So this one will calculate according to the segment also if you repoint it to the entire table. So this is compute using. The compute using is a really good one to use to show a different value completely based upon the one dimension or the other. So I have 51 right now. I have 51 rows, but the table calculation I changed is only for the size. What if I do the same thing to index as well? So if you see here, index also is calculating on my entire table and it is giving me a number from the start to 51. It showed me all the numbers. And if you just do the same to everything, all the values will change according to the complete table. That means they are considering all the 51 rows inside your view. If you see here, even the last 5 is a table calculation. It is also computing according to the complete table. So if you see here, the last value 5 is coming up as right value, true. It considered all the 51 rows. This is where you can use compute using to change the values according to the views you have inside or according to the dimensions you have inside. Let's see one more case scenario on the compute using. Okay, to understand it better, let's drag out segment and just use one more case scenario. If I just go to the first and if I just select category, if you see here, category is the first thing. So it will have 0 and everything has thrown me a 0 over here. If you just go to the subcategory, bookcases is the first. So it will compute based upon this row and this row as well. So this one will entirely become one section for it. So the first column will entirely look into this and it will throw you number. And it will restart again because we selected subcategory. It will restart again from this section and throw you numbers like that. And it will restart again with technology and throw you numbers like this. So every first column starts with 0 and all the sections it has inside the subcategory because we selected subcategory here, compute using subcategory. This one restarts, let's say restarts the calculation for every portion of subcategory, because we have category also on our view. So the aggregation is also dependent on category. The subcategory is restarting every level from this scenario, and these are completely dependent upon each dimension they has inside this views, and every compute using will restart again according to the subcategory. If you just do the same with the last rank also, if you see here, this is the vice versa first we have used, and it restarted again at each subcategory. So it starts with 0 and ends with 3 here, and it restarts again with 0 and ends with 8 here, and it restarts again with 0 and ends with 3 here. It is dependent upon the subcategory. If you do the same with all the others also, they will act the same. If you look at the index is starting from 1 and it is ending with 4 because it is calculated based upon the subcategory. And size also, if you give subcategory, in this section you have 4. Office supplies, you have 9. Furniture, you have 4 again. This is how it calculates based upon the compute using. You can either give a field name over here to change your values. Say, okay, we have seen the basic scenarios where you use calculations, like you say these are advanced calculations. So we will also look at how these will work if you have some values inside, but not the calculations. Let's take some value. I'm just removing the measure values here. So I'm just dragging sales. These are the sales I have, right? Okay. Just take out the measure names here, and I have sales, right? So what I will do, I will just add a table calculation, because we already have seen how the table calculations will work based upon the compute using. We will also look at one thing where we are using some table calculation. So I am saying running total. Okay, I'm taking running total. So I have some table calculation. So what it is doing, it is giving me a total of whatever it has it in the previous value. This is also one kind of running calculation. We will discuss more about running calculations in our use cases. So if I just use a table calculation like this, and what my compute using is doing, it is taking all my rows, all from first to the last. What if I say calculate based on subcategory? So what it will do is, it will calculate this portion only inside the subcategory. It will start with this one and it will give the calculation of running total until this value. And again, it starts with this value and ends with this value. And this value with this value. So what if we just use one more calculation here, which is rank? So what is rank? So rank will give you a specific number to each row based upon the sum you have, like the value you have in the view. So let's say I want to see the rank based upon the sales. So it is defaultly using a table calculation, right? So I'm just dragging my rank onto my view. So this is the rank it's allocated for each value. And this rank is calculated on my whole table. If you see here, I can see all the 17 rows and it is giving me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And according to the sum, it is giving me some value. So what if I just say, okay, compute using subcategory weight. So table down is actually the rank according to, so it is throwing me the rank according to the value over here. So let's make it very simple and just clear the table calculation. So we will see the actual number over here. And if you see here, this rank is calculated for all the rows from 1 to 17. So it is randomly throwing up numbers according to the rows whatever we have on the table. So what if I wanted to see the rank only on subcategory? So if you click on the subcategory, this will throw you an option where you can look at the ranking based upon subcategory only. So for this 4 rows, it threw a rank. So the first one is this, second one is this, third one is this, or fourth one is this, like that. And it threw all the values inside the office supplies, it threw all the values inside the technology, etc. So the rank is actually calculated based upon the compute using subcategory. Let's say it is taking the value based upon the sales, the rank, sum of sales, and it is going to the table, looking up as we just used compute using based upon the table, and it will throw you according to each subcategory. So we are already like used subcategory for so many things. What if I just say category? So category is the first option it has and it is throwing everything as one. So what if I just say cell? Cell is also the same thing because cell will calculate on this. So one thing calculation will be exactly first rank. So it will go to again this cell, this will allocate first rank. So it is based upon the cell calculation, you will get only one number because it is calculating based upon the cell only. You just go with the table down, it will show you all the values for all the 17 numbers. If you just go with the pane down is exactly like the subcategory in this scenario. So pane down, all this pane down, table down options will act upon the dimensions you have on the view. Pane down in this scenario is this is the pane for it. So in the pane you have subcategory. So even selecting a pane down or even selecting a subcategory is the same scenario in this case. So because this is the pane it has, in the pane you have subcategory. So going with the pane down or going with the subcategory will show you the same value. So this one also the same. These are totally dependent upon what you have on the rows and what you have on the columns. That's how your table is prepared, right? So complete a table is prepared upon the dimensions you have on the rows or measures you have on the rows. It completely depends upon what you have on the rows and columns. So even the pane across then down is the same thing. It will calculate pane and then down. Pane down and then across computes the same thing because it has subcategory inside the pane. This varies according to whatever you have inside the views. Let's say if I just have subcategory here, it is showing up me a different value in the rank because I just changed the subcategory to the column, and pane down and across is computing in the arrow mark, like let's say up to down. This one will throw you one because it is only seeing one value over there. That's how it works. So whenever you're using this table calculations, just look at what you have on your view. So what is pane? What is the entire table? This is pane. This is the entire table. And if you just say table down or table across or pane down or pane across, this is the place where you have to look how your values are working. And if you want to make it really simple and understand how the compute using is working, so I'm just taking a quick calculation of percent of total. So percent of total is basically rounding up entire my calculation to 100%, right? So this one right now you should have the 100% for your entire table. So what if I just go and use some other thing like subcategory first? So this is a dimension and subcategory will give you the 100% for this subcategory alone. So this pane alone it will give you 100%. So the next one, this pane alone, it will give you 100%. So the technology, it will be 100%. And if you categorize it according to the cell, let's say cell only computes on one cell. So the entire cell is 100% for it. So this is not the right case for it. And if you just go with this category also, it will throw up the same thing because the entire category is 100% for it. So the whole can be 100%. Pane is exactly the same thing, right? Like subcategory. Pane down is the same thing because this is the pane for it. We have subcategory inside the pane. Table is the complete table and it will calculate a complete table. Table down, it's like you can imagine the arrow starting from up to down. So table across, how it will calculate is from left to right. So if it calculates from left to right, if you just look at here, from left to right, what value it is getting? Only 1. So in that case scenario, it will calculate only that cell and it will show you 100. So what if I have a subcategory on the rows column? So it will get each value from the left to right. So whatever is there in this one particular row, the entire furniture will be 100. Entire office supplies will be 100. Entire technologies will be 100. So across is like left to right, down is like up to down. So this is the basic difference between across and down. So table is entire table. Pane is one particular part. In this case, a subcategory. This is your pane. Entire table means your entire table. So these are the options you have inside the compute UC. You can go with the dimensions also, or if it is satisfying on this only, you can go with that one also. So this is all about advanced calculations and table calculations, and we do have some more calculations to look around. So we will quickly go into the other use cases where we can work with Windows functions or where we can work with running functions.